Good morning. I am Chika, ossai-ugbah, author of Survival in a Hostile Environment. I believe in spiritual warfare. I am an adaptive leadership teacher. I am also an emotional mastery coach and spiritual intelligence coach. Welcome to our class on spiritual intelligence. Remember that our world is more than what you can see. It's more than what you can prove by science. Spiritual intelligence is to help you realize yourself, not just as body and soul, but also as spirit. Your realization of your spiritual self enables you to live in the consciousness as spirit, to interact with your physical world and take the best productive decisions that will enable you to live your best life. Once you are able to maintain this connection between the physical and the spiritual, you gain the best of life. To be spiritual is to think, to act, and to interact from an awareness of yourself as spirit, not just as body. Intelligence, on the other hand, is to realize a body of knowledge, using that knowledge at the appropriate time, with the appropriate motive, to achieve the appropriate thing within the period or time frame that you find yourself. Our goal today, ultimately, is to assist you in raising your level of consciousness to build and develop your spiritual intelligence. So today, we will be focusing on how to develop your spiritual intelligence. Ultimately, our spirituality means moving from a physically driven life to a spiritually driven life. By a spiritually driven life, I mean that in our decisions, our relationships, we are guided by our spirit self in taking the decisions that affect our marriages, our jobs, our businesses, even the things that we seek to buy in the physical world should be guided by our spirit self and the decisions that come into the spiritual plane, having gained knowledge in the spiritual plane about those things physically. You recall that in our first lesson on spiritual intelligence, we maintained the fact that whatever you find physically has a spiritual representation, because the spiritual is what guides the physical. So if the spiritual is the real thing, the cocoa of the matter, it therefore means that we should have our knowledge from the spirit realm and use that to guide the things that we do physically. When we are able to do this, it helps to foster a sense of peace, progress, acceptance, and understanding in our world. It also helps our relationships and increases our sense of inner peace. Being able to have that sense of inner peace comes from your spirit self, because the spirit self is what guides and keeps the physical self. In fact, I would say that with a little more implementation of spiritual intelligence, you'll be able to deliver yourself from the stress that we find in our physical world. The stress that comes with making the wrong decisions. The stress that comes with rushing into doing things without having, in my word, a spirit-driven decision that comes from the spirit realm or the spirit plane. This is important to live your best life. If we must then rehearse what we have always mentioned, that you are body, you are soul, and you are spirit. At creation, the divine invested in you three capitals. A material capital, which is body, your IQ, which refers to what you know. Then, a social capital, which has to do with your soul, your emotional quotient, which has to do with how you feel based on how you interpret outward events. Then, you are invested with a spiritual capital, which is your spiritual quotient, which has to do with your spirit self, how you interpret the things that go on in the spirit realm. And we noted that this is a triangle. It is a tripartite relationship. A tripartite relationship in the sense that what comes from your spirit affects your body. What comes from your spirit affects your soul. What comes from your soul affects your body. The spirit has dominion over the soul. The body does not have dominion over the spirit. The spirit has control over the soul and over the body. Therefore, you find that within this tripartite relationship, there is a circle which I have referred to as your spirit center. Your spirit center. Your spirit center is the gateway to the interaction with your body, your soul, and your spirit. But your spirit center, which is the portal, is responsible for the opening of your spirit man to what comes to your body and what affects your soul. Therefore, this is the key. This is the center of what we will be discussing on how to develop your spiritual intelligence. Remember, it is how to develop your spiritual intelligence. The key is in your spirit center. Your spirit center is what we will be focusing our attention on a lot today. One way you can develop your spiritual intelligence is through connection. Connection. Connection through what? Your spirit center. Connection enabled by your spirit. When we mean connection, what I'm referring to is that your spirit self is the portal to your spirit realm. With this portal, you can open, you can close. You are able to allow or disallow what should come into your life. So you have control over your spirit man. Since I am Christian, I always speak from that point. Paul noted to the Corinthian Christians, he said, the spirit of the prophet is subject to the prophet, which means that you are able to either open to the spirit or close your portal to the spirit. But if your portal is closed to the spirit of God, to the spirit that should help you develop your spiritual intelligence, you live in darkness. You live in blindness. You live in ignorance of the drivers of your daily decisions that will affect your marriage, affect your job, affect your business, or even your relationship with your children. Connection begins with the realization and understanding that there is a higher spirit. And this higher spirit is the one to whom you plug your spirit into. When he overshadows your spirit, he rules over you and helps you to take the decisions that are necessary for your life. Science doesn't help that connection. The physical realm cannot help that connection because it is a spiritual relationship. So you must have a relationship with the higher spirit, who, from my Christian perspective, is the Holy Spirit.
to gain the understanding of the things that take place in the spirit realm. Since he is the ultimate spirit, he grants you the knowledge that you need spiritually to become intelligent. And the intelligence rules your daily affairs. Therefore, do you have that connection? Or have you ever had that connection? If you are Christian, remember the man called Jacob. He was on a trip to a place called Haran. He came to a place. Since it was dark, decided to sleep. And he had a dream, or a vision, or trance, or whatever you choose to call it, of angels ascending and descending. Ascending and descending. When he woke up, or rather became physically conscious, what Jacob said is important in realizing the issue of connection and opening your spiritual portal. Jacob said, so God was in this place, and I did not know it. So God is in this place, and I didn't know it. Why did Jacob not know it? The physical realm closed his spiritual man to connecting to the Spirit of God that was prevalent where he was. And that's the same thing that happens to us. Our physical self has untaught our spiritual self. So all we do today is we see physically instead of seeing spiritually. We see emotionally instead of seeing spiritually. But our physical seeing and our emotional seeing should be guided or inspired by the spiritual seeing, because you are spirit. Jacob opened that portal, and boom, there was this connection, and his eyes became open. Wow. Another experience. At 16, of course, Paul. He was in Philippi, Caesarea Philippi. And for 3 days, the girl with the spirit of divination kept accompanying him and advertising Paul's product. These are men who have come to speak to us about the living God. For 3 days, Paul's physical eyes and spirit took over him. Therefore, Paul's portal was closed. But by the 3rd day, Paul's spiritual portal was open to realize that this advert was not of the spirit that he had. And he spoke and asked the spirit in the girl to get out, because it was the spirit of divination. The errors and mistakes we make in our physical lives, the error in judgment, is oftentimes detected by our physical sin. Instead of opening our spiritual center, instead of allowing this portal to remain open so that the spirit can take dominion over the soul and take dominion over the body. Haven't you ever made certain decisions sometimes that you regretted making, when your spirit portal became open and you, by reflection, realized that the decision you made was not what you should have made in the first place? Therefore, make your connection stronger. Make your connection weaker to the ultimate spirit by getting your connection right through the Spirit of God. When you connect, by knowing how to connect through your spiritual portal, you accelerate your developmental process, mental developmental process, emotional developmental process, even your spiritual developmental process. We waste a lot of physical energies by not connecting spiritually, because most of the efforts that we exert physically, we should have been able to save a lot of those energies if the inspirations for the things that we do physically came from the spirit realm by connecting to the higher spirit, who is the Holy Spirit of God. The inner clutter inside us, you can bypass it by connecting to the higher spirit, the Spirit of God. Guys, establish your connection. Make that connection stronger. Let the link become stronger. And once the link becomes stronger with the higher spirit, you can receive spiritual information every time, anytime. It will no longer be occasional, dictated by the moment, because you are spirit. Wow. Did you get that? I am spirit. I'm sure you may be saying, Chika, you sure I'm spirit? Yeah, you are. Remember, there is more to life than what the eyes can see or even what the soul can feel. How then do you build your spiritual intelligence? Forgiveness. You build it through forgiveness. In the physical realm and world, you will get into relationships that will hurt you. In the physical realm and world, you will face disappointment. You will experience broken hearts. People will hurt you. But you see, if you allow those hurts to remain, you add weight to your spirit self, and you will not be able to soar to the realm of the spirit. I like to describe it this way. Connecting to your spiritual realm is like an airplane that wants to take off until it reaches that altitude where it can fly effortlessly. It has to pierce through the clouds and keep ascending until it gets to that altitude where it becomes stable and flies aimlessly. The weights of hurt, the weights of pain are the clouds that your airplane has to fight with until it gets to that altitude where it becomes stable and can fly. The more you keep those hurts, the more weight you attach to your spirit. The more you lay claim to those hurts and pains, the more you drag down your spirit man and don't allow it to gain the freedom that it needs to guide you. Oh my. I'm sure you may be saying, you don't realize what he did to me. My ex hurt me. I know. I may not realize your extent of pain, but come on, which is more profitable? To live below your spirit self or to live in the realm of your spirit self? To gain control of your spirit self and become more conscious of who you are, or to live below your capacity? Come on. Rise above that hurt. Rise above that weight and allow your spirit man to soar and gain the height to the altitude where it can fly effortlessly and help you gain dominion over your physical world. With lack of forgiveness, you become heavier. The weight will be too much for your spirit man to carry. Whatever it may be, still hurting you, get over it so that you can soar in the realm of the spirit. You can also develop your spiritual intelligence by understanding and listening to promptings. A prompter is someone who suggests something that you should do or say at a particular point in time. Most high-profile persons who speak actually use prompters before them. Prompters that suggest words, lines that they should say, things that they should say to define their brand. The same thing happens in the spirit realm. The spirit, the higher spirit, is the prompter when you are able to connect to this higher spirit. The Holy Spirit is your prompter, enabling you to say something, to do something at a particular point in time. But you won't be able to understand the prompting if you have not been connected to the Spirit. Oh, this is where the issue of connection that I talked about earlier becomes very valid in our discussion. Prompting. And the promptings come in gentle ways, where the Spirit nudges your spirit, places something in your spirit. And it comes in very quiet ways. Sometimes it comes with what you call a thought. A thought. And that thought stays there. Sometimes it comes with what may look like fear. Fear. And that fear is to prompt you to take action about something. You have this nudge to leave a certain place. And boom! It doesn't take up to 1 minute. After you have stepped away from that place, a car comes crashing into the place. And you are like, wow! What just happened? There was a prompting in your spirit, and you stepped away. Because the Spirit knew, right in the spirit realm, that at a given point that was about to happen. And you obeyed that nudge in your spirit. It may be something like, don't board this airplane. But you've discovered that if you don't board that airplane, you miss your appointment. The choice is yours between listening to your spirit, boarding that airplane, and waiting for the consequence. It may be, don't follow this vehicle. It may be the first vehicle. And you feel, why should I wait for the third vehicle? But that's exactly what is in your spirit, man. Wait for the third vehicle. Listening makes the whole world of difference. I was into an investment scheme. And 6 months before that investment crashed, by the way, it was genuine investment, legally registered. And I was a part of it. 6 months before it crashed, there was this nudge in my spirit to pull out of it. But you see, because of the physical revenue I kept getting from it, which was constant and had never failed, I felt, you see, there was still time. There was still time. There was still time. And all of a sudden, boom, I lost 3 million naira. In a twinkle of an eye. It was gone. I cried. Why did I not listen? Why did I not act? I wouldn't say I wasn't prompted to do. I had the prompting. I knew it deep down in my spirit. But you see, I allowed the physical judgment to overrule the spiritual. Meanwhile, the spiritual is supposed to overrule the physical. I'm sure you've made that mistake like me. One of my friends had an appointment in an embassy because she sought for their visa to attend one of their conferences. Name of country and embassy withheld. She kept going, my visa, because the time for her paper presentation in that conference was getting too close. She had just 2 days interval. And one of those days, while she was at the embassy, confused, she didn't know what to do. She just had this prompting in her spirit to speak with one of the men at the security post. And she spoke to the man and said, look, I don't know what to do anymore. I'm supposed to travel today. My visa is not out. My paper presentation is being jeopardized if I don't have my visa today. Guess what? The man at the security post said, Madam, I beg, make you wait small. Speaking in pidgin English. And they come. Left the security post, moved into the building, came back and said to her, Madam, I beg you feel call this number. What? And she called the number. Someone picked up at the other side and said, ma'am, please, you just hang on. By 3 p.m., you have your visa. What? Someone at the security post who could not speak good English had the contact to help her get her visa out. If I were the one, what would I have done? Because I would have looked from the physical. If he's at the security post, he doesn't have the connection and contact that I need then. But you see, there is more to life than what you can see physically. Therefore, promptings are important in building and developing your spiritual intelligence. Another thing you need to develop your spiritual intelligence is what in Jewish term is called paga. Paga. P-A-G-A. Which is the flow of spontaneous and persistent thoughts. Flow of spontaneous and persistent thoughts. Spontaneous means you didn't think about it prior to when you had it. Spontaneous means it comes immediately, without preparation. Persistent means it stays there, sits there, and refuses to leave. Spontaneous, it comes and goes. Persistent, it comes and stays there. Sometimes, what we don't realize is this, that the thoughts that come to us are not our thoughts. They are downloaded by the mind to put into words what the Spirit is saying to us. Understand this. Your mind is like the server that receives what is downloaded from the spirit realm. And the mind puts into words, the mind puts into words what the body can respond to, having come from the spirit. So sometimes I hear people say, I thought it was my mind speaking to me. Yeah, it was your mind speaking to you. Sure, no doubt about it. However, it was not your mind speaking. Your mind was only relating to you in the language you can understand physically what the spirit had just released to it. The mind puts into words. And The thoughts can come by impressions. And what do we mean by impressions? When I look at you, there is this distant feelings in my spirit. No matter how much you try to push into my space, something keeps pushing me back, repelling my acceptance. Which means I must not judge you physically. I must judge you spiritually, because my spirit has refused connection and contact with your spirit. And I should obey my spirit, because my spirit understands you better beyond the physical disposition that you are portraying to me. Most times, what you want to see is what people make you see. What you want to hear is what people make you hear. But having the adequate and right spiritual connection will make you hear words beyond what people say, will make you see beyond what people make you to see. Therefore, responding and understanding spontaneous and persistent thoughts are too important. And so, this thought sits in my spirit, and it keeps coming. This guy is not clean. This guy is not clean. This guy is not clean. I say, no, that can be true because of what I see physically. Fast forward now. Boom! 6 months, 3 months from now, you get a display from this one who has carefully packaged himself all along. And you are like, wow, how did I not know that all this while? You did. Only that you refused to connect with the thoughts that have been in your spirit. It is a chance encounter that comes sometimes engineered and inspired from where? The spirit realm. I have paid dearly from not listening and executing the flow of thought in my spirit. I mean, I have paid dearly. Relationships I wanted to keep, but paga had been happening. And the things that I received by way of thought, spontaneous and persistent, we are not consistent with what I saw physically. I decided to go with my physical sense instead of going with my spirit sense. I have paid dearly. And each time I look back now, I cry. What got hold on me? Why did I not listen and obey my thoughts? Mind you, I said my thoughts, they are mine because they came from my spirit, who is connected to the ultimate spirit. I'm sure you can say that too. Because the thoughts kept coming. Don't do this. Don't follow this business line. Don't invest in this place. Don't say this to your wife. Don't say this to your husband. But because you were overcome with anger, boom, you let the word go and hell broke loose. If you can listen and obey those thoughts, you will save yourself a lot of physical hassles. Why? Remember, though you are body, you are soul, and you are spirit. And this spirit will have to release to the soul what is happening in the spirit realm for the soul to put into words and interpret to you, so that the body can respond, not react. So that the body can respond to what the spirit is saying to you. So the best way to describe or define it is this, that it goes this way, and comes back again this way. This is the center that controls everything that happens at this point and at this point. Therefore, allow your spirit freedom to soar and move so that you can realize and live your best life ever. Your spirits, paga, spontaneous, persistent thoughts. Meditation is another way to develop your spiritual intelligence. Meditation, I didn't say yoga, I said meditation. Some of us, permit my digression, because I'm Christian, I've heard Christians ask me, should I do yoga? The thing is this, yoga is Eastern religion packaged as exercise. Therefore, meditation is different from yoga. Meditation is being able to sit still and focus your mind on a subject until you are able to do what? Log out from the noise in your physical environment. And there is quietness in your spirit. Permit me to say there is so much noise in the physical. And it takes a lot of battle to be able to sit down in quietness and log out from the physical world and sit still and allow your spirit man to soar and give your spirit man freedom to interact with the ultimate spirit who is God. You have to break the barrier of noise. You have to break the barrier of your physical thoughts about your business, what may be happening around the world, the bad news all around you. You have to sit still. Sometimes it will take you 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 1 hour to be able to log out from the physical realm and log out from the noise all around you to enter into that realm of quietness. Through what? Meditation. Meditation grants you rest and restoration, allows your spirit man to feed through restoration of his lost virtues. Meditation, taking that subject, brooding on it, and allowing it to feed your spirit. Meditation takes a reflection too, which means I sit still, think over my actions, what I said to my wife, what I said to my daughter, what I said to my son. I shouldn't have said it that way. Meditation helps me in that reflection to be able to go back and say, I'm sorry. But you see, the physical world of body heightens your ego, and you are not able to say, I'm sorry. And that destroys everything that you've been building all this while. This is a generation filled with so much noise. So much noise with digital apparatus. We are lost in the digital world that we forget to develop our spiritual self. The digital world. Each one is pinging. Each one is typing. Each one is downloading, posting, pasting. Call it whatever. Give time and allow your spirit man freedom through meditation to grow and give you the best life that you can ever live. In the meditative process, you get to learn more about yourself. See, don't tell me you are not proud. I'm sure you may say I'm not proud. But you may not know how proud you are until you become rich, wealthy, or famous. But meditation, your spirit self is able to go ahead of you, knowing who you are before you get there, and help you break off from that wrong motive or process before you get there. So you become more refined before you get to the point. You may not know how much lust you have within you until beautiful women start coming around you. And then that attraction, boom, and you start struggling with it. But with meditation, as your spirit man begins to grow higher, you are able to realize who you are. Because the spirit realm speaks from the future to the present. And our lives as Christians must be controlled from the future to the present. And not controlling or trying to control the future from the present. The present can't control the future. The future can only order and reorder the present. Therefore, our lives are meant to be controlled from the future, because that's who we are. And that's when your spirit self has actually gained ascendancy. Again, to develop your spiritual intelligence, I have to harp on this that I mentioned earlier. Do what is called detached observation. And what do I mean by detached observation? Log out from the physical world. I mean, log out from the world of action, from the world of thoughts, from the world of interaction with the physical world, to interact with your spiritual self. Log out. Because if you don't log out, you will continue to remain in this physical realm and make physical mistake. When you don't log out, you will waste time, energy, and effort, because you won't see what is beyond what you see. Realize that whatever you see physically has a spiritual representation. Aristotle said, whatever is has always been. Whatever is has always been. Whatever is existing has always existed. And because it has always existed, understanding from the spirit realm helps control the physical realm. Because you are not just body, you are not just soul, you are spirit. How do you build, develop your spiritual intelligence? Practice. What did I say? Practice. The more you practice, the more you become aware of your spirit self. The more you become aware of the promptings of the spirit. The more you become aware of the interaction with the spirit. The more you become aware of the ways and means through which the spirit interacts with you. My daughter, when she was younger, learned to have interaction with the spirit. We did not know what was happening with her until I began to see beyond what I saw. Sometimes, in her sober, quiet state, she begins to cry. Sometimes, in her time of singing and worshiping God, she begins to cry. She may be in that state for 1 hour, 2 hours, which she still does till today in her personal, private moments. And because she was young and we didn't know what was actually wrong with her, permit my use of language, I decided to interact with her on a certain day and I said, look, daughter, when I see you in this state, I have so much concern. Because she didn't have the language at that time and the vocabulary, she said to me, Dad, each time you find me that way, it is because in her language, the Holy Spirit is beating me. And I said, what? Said the Holy Spirit is beating me. What she meant by that was the Holy Spirit is interacting with me. Having come to know that, each time I see her in that state, even today, I have an understanding that something beyond the physical is taking place. Beloved, the world is beyond what you see. Log out. Forget about what you get physically. Log out and see beyond your physical seeing so that you can deliver your soul and your desires from being punctured and punctured in a way that will leave a mark upon your heart. See beyond what you see by practicing. Oh, someone had said to me, how do I know that is my spirit saying this? You will only know when you keep practicing. Take the step when you are prompted. Act when you are prompted. Speak when you are prompted. Do when you are prompted. Refrain from doing when you are prompted. The more you practice, the more the Spirit gains control over you, and it becomes what? Natural. When it becomes natural, the interaction then will become effortless. And people may then begin to wonder, how then is it easy with you to log into the spirit realm? It is supposed to be an everyday experience, not occasional. Can it happen? Yes. Have I tried it? Yes. Have I reached the height that I desire? No. I keep improving. I keep practicing. And I find myself getting better with my spiritual intelligence and interactions every day. Remember, you can develop your spiritual intelligence by learning how to connect. You can develop your spiritual intelligence by learning how to forgive. You can develop your spiritual intelligence by understanding the promptings of the Spirit and acting. You can also develop your spiritual intelligence by understanding the flow of spontaneous and persistent thoughts. You can develop your spiritual intelligence through meditation, through seeing, through practice. When you do this, you grow spiritually and become more intelligent. Gentlemen and ladies, we've come to the end of our discussion today. I hope I have been able to awaken something in you to help you to become more conscious of the fact that you are spirit. If there is anything to remember, remember that you are not just body, you are not just soul, you are spirit. And because you are spirit, you have a spirit center through which your activities, both in the physical and spiritual realm, should be guided. And once you can operate your spirit center, you are able to influence what happens in your body and in your soul and helps you to live your best life. Remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Ossai-ugbah TV. I'll come your way again, and until next time, practice, practice, practice. Thank you for listening to me. See you next time.